I think the other unique thing about your business that we talked about is you've got like 100,000 customers, right? And so you have pretty good penetration and adding the next 100,000 customers isn't really the strategy. It's really more, how can I build more trust, provide more, all the things you talked about is how can I leverage the brand and the trust I've created to build more trust in the new solutions I can provide to customers that create demand and revenue for the company. So that's a really different thing than when you were at Responses and you were creating a new category, trying to get new customers that you didn't have any customers. So how did it change your view of marketing, or how does that change your day-to-day way you think about marketing, leveraging the voice of the customer and trust in that context?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a product component to that also. So where that comes from is, and we sort of touched on it a little earlier, right? So for those of us who've been in startup companies, building, going from 0 to 1, kind of like crossing the chasm, all this other stuff, we have to get those customers one at a time, build that, etc. It's all about new logos, getting new logos in. And the DigiCert case, when I joined 2 years ago, we knew, I mean, DigiCert has been in business for 30 years. It's got a core business, the public trust business that we talked about, right? 100,000 customers. Out of those 100,000 customers, 95,000 of them are not enterprise, right? There are 5,000 enterprises there and everyone else is, medium size or whatever. However, there's the other piece of this. And so when you put that jigsaw puzzle together, you're going, wait a minute, okay, I've got them using this stuff. But we just talked about how trust permeates to other things also. We talked about the fact that, hey, devices need trust, software needs trust, right? We all send emails, messaging needs trust, right? There's technologies out there that basically let you put a certificate on a message so that the inboxing of that certificate is much better, right? A value mark certificate, for example. So then the challenge becomes, okay, I have got these capabilities just using the PKI technologies, not to mention we also sell DNS, which is the domain name service, which is the other part of our foundational business. How do we go to organizations that are using our public trust product and how do we get them to look at these other products that are also very germane to what they may be doing? There's no enterprise out there that is not a software company today. Mark Andreessen said this, right? Software is eating all businesses. And now, of course, they're talking about how AI is going to eat software, et cetera. But just think about it. Every company is building some sort of software, right? If you're a healthcare company, you're building software. You're integrating various pieces together. If you're a financial company, you're doing that. You are a packaged goods company, the Targets of the world, Sainsbury's of the world, they've got all this stuff. How do they make sure that software supply chain, so to speak, is safe? And so that's an example of how we go and look at these customers and say, okay, what is the potential opportunity there and where can we go? So you asked another interesting question, which is, and that's not an easy thing, by the way, because the buyer of the public trust product who's managing the website presence is probably going to be quite different from the people who are doing the back end IT to basically build software. So that's where the marketer comes in, has to now use his or her brains and try to figure out, okay, how am I going to penetrate that? What types of programs am I going to do? How do I build customer relationships to be able to connect to those people? And in big companies, in enterprises, that's not easy, right? Just because you're talking to a person in this particular section of the enterprise doesn't mean you've got an inroad into the other one. The only thing that you have is you've got a contractual relationship with the customer. So maybe that does make things easier. However, you're still not solving the problem of the other guy who may not know the first guy you're working with. In some sense, it's a way of it's like account-based marketing techniques that have to be used, except you're using it within your own customer base.
Yeah. And so the question is, like, you have this trusted position with the head of public products, right, in a company, or
The
you
head of e-commerce. So someone who's in the
e-commerce, right,
e-commerce
head
channel,
of
right?
e-commerce, right? But now you're saying, look, Joe trusts me. Jane over here, you should trust me. But how do you create that trust with Jane? Like, what are some of the ways you've looked at trying to leverage the trust you have and the trust you deliver in order to create trust with new buyers?
And there's a combination of things, right? So we talked earlier about how, trust is earned and you have to earn it by actually doing it, right? Reliability, availability, scalability, etc. Now, it really helps when, you know, Jane is your first customer already using you for several years on their public website. And Jane says, you know what, this thing has never gone down. I've always been completely satisfied with this
We're
because the
getting
certificates,
Jane's voice.
that's
Uh,
the voice of Jane, right?
right.
And yes, it's not exactly the what I'm going to be doing with the software development side, but it's nice to know that, hey, these guys have a great reputation. We've got a great reputation. That's one part of it. The other part of it is also then we talked about the value, the product value, right? And in the context of what the other person is doing, right? And so you still have to do that work. If you're going to like sell to people in IT who are building software, you have to show them why your software trust manager product, what we call, digital signing for software, is going to be useful to them and what value it gives them. The ability to like make sure that software is safe, make sure it can't get penetrated, can't get, malware in there, and so on and so forth. So those are the things that you have to still bring that value, but you can build on that foundation of your experience and what you've done with the customers. And of course, like every other thing, even when you were like landing and expanding in a small company, you need to be able to like have customers talk about what value they've seen, and you have to cross the chasm with them too. So just because I have 100,000 customers in one product base, for the new products that I create, I still need to start from zero, and I got to build that.